Okay, now we're back in this book. Okay, it's the Sheer Lab's last book. Mikey, can you turn that other light over there on? The other light over there. Keep on ticking. Seemed like that didn't work. When I first went to work as a writer in the motion picture industry years ago, I had no idea what a Rolex was. I confused it with a Rolodex, the desktop file secretaries use for addresses. I was mystified when the battery of my Timex died, and I had to ask the secretary how long it was until lunch. Hold on, she said. I'll look at my Rolex. Suffice it to say, I was the only living human being on the West Coast over the age of 3 who did not know what a Rolex was. Eventually, I figured out what it was, but it took Emma, the secretary, to explain why a Rolex was such a big deal. Handmade, she explained. I mean, everything is handmade. Once the jeweler set the thing, it is set forever. It even adjusts the days for leap year. Can you believe it? Big deal, I replied. It is so hard to change the date on your watch for leap year. Emma's eyes narrowed. She had saved the best for last. I personally know this guy who lost his Rolex out on the ocean over the Great Marina Gorge. No one knows how deep this gorge is or what is down there, right? She paused for effect. So this guy accidentally drops his $2,000 watch into the water over the gorge. His wife is yelling that he should go after it because she bought it for him for their anniversary. But this guy does not love her enough to jump into a Marina Gorge after a watch, no matter what. But when 2 years later, what do you think happens? I'm listening. They catch a great white shark right off Catalina Island, and what do you think they find in its stomach? Not the husband. He didn't jump. They found the Rolex. She raised her hand, Scout's honor, with his name engraved on it, but he was glad he wasn't attached to it. Emma would not be stopped, but listen to this. She grabbed my arm, and I could see she had goosebumps. The Rolex was still ticking. Imagine. Dropped into the Marina Gorge, who knows how deep, the pressure, then to be swallowed by a great white shark. Who knows how much the poor Rolex went through and still survived. I had to admit there were some Jonah-like qualities to this story that made me eye the watch with a new respect. It was no wonder the entire writing staff of ABC television owned Rolex watches. This way they would never miss a deadline, even if they were swallowed by a shark in the Marina's Gorge. I was the only writer with an excuse. After that, I admit I wanted a Rolex too, but the years passed and I never got my Rolex. Then last year, a dear friend returned from a trip to the Orient and presented me with a red velvet watch case. To my astonishment, inside the case was a Rolex watch. Like a character in a Porky Pig cartoon, I stuttered something unintelligible. Such a gift, so incredible. How did you manage to do it? My friend began to laugh. It's not a real wallet, silly. I began to whine. Not Switzerland. I bought it off an 8-year-old with an arm full of the things. I tried not to look disappointed. It was the thought, after all, she had been thinking of her materialistic friend back in the States who in a million years would not purchase herself a real wallet. Gee, I said, it sure looks real. The only visible difference between a Rolex and its counterfeit was the way the second hand moved. The real Rolex simply swept across the dial, while the counterfeit Rolex said tick, tick, tick. Every other detail was the same. Okay, I know it's shocking, but I admit it. I wore the watch. I wore my sleeves rolled up when I wore the watch. I was very careful to take it off around water. Washing dishes, brushing teeth, all these sorts of things were done without the watch. Things went well. I stayed away from the Marina Gorge, but one day I found myself in line with my teenagers for Splash Mountain at Disneyland. My kids were all around me saying things like, "Aw, Mom, come on, don't be a pansy. You won't get wet." I had been having such a good time that I forgot about my Rolex. Signs on the wall of the ride warned off people with heart trouble and bad bats. Everyone I looked wore stenciled words that proclaimed caution, you may get wet. My heart and back were fine, but I worried about my white blouse. My kid said, "We'll blot the water. We'll blot the water. You won't get wet." They are my beloved children, after all, as I believe them. I climbed into the little Splash Mountain log. I screamed and laughed around every curve. I was not getting wet. And then, when the last long hill down took us into the water, my beloved children ducked while the full wave splashed over me. My soaking wet white blouse was reminded when I quickly put on my son's sweatshirt, but there was no help for the fake Rolex. Before my very eyes, its crystal fogged into until I could no longer see what time it was, much less its counterfeit trademark. There has to be more to this story, right? I attached the phony Rolex onto my corkboard, then took my old Timex down to be cleaned, and no longer do I wonder with the lyrics to a recent song, would Jesus wear a Rolex? Instead, I wonder what kind of watch would he make? And if I wore a watch, what sort of watch would I want to be? I know I want the trademark of the craftsmanship stamped on my face no counterfeit faith for me. Confronted with real tests, I want the promise of His presence. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me. Psalm chapter 139, verse 9 through 10. Simply put, I want to keep ticking, even in a great Marina Gorge.